Hello, fellow pigeon fanciers. Welcome back to another educational discussion here at Ted's Loft TV. For today's topic, we are going to discuss an important decision in racing pigeon management, especially when the season is already approaching its final races. Our topic is, why should you avoid suddenly introducing mid-tossing when your racing pigeons are already on the last lap of the season? First, let us make one thing clear. This does not mean that mid-tossing is always bad. Mid-tossing can be part of a successful training system when it is properly planned, introduced at the right time, and used consistently. The real problem is not mid-tossing itself. The real problem is introducing a new training system at the wrong time, especially during the final stage of the racing season. By the time the last lap arrives, your racing pigeons are no longer starting from zero. They have already gone through weeks or even months of training. They have already competed in races. They have experienced different distances, different weather conditions, different wind conditions, and different levels of physical and mental stress. Their bodies have already adapted to a particular system. They already have a routine. They already have a rhythm. They already have a recovery pattern. And when we suddenly change everything, we are asking the pigeons to adjust all over again. This is why one important principle in racing pigeon management is, when you have already built good condition, do not destroy it with unnecessary changes. Imagine a racing pigeon that has already completed several races. Every race creates physical stress. The muscles work hard. The bird uses a large amount of energy. The body needs time to recover. The bird also experiences mental stress from transportation, liberation, long-distance flight, weather conditions, and the physical demands of competition. Now, because the final lap is approaching, the fancier suddenly decides to add several mid-tosses. The intention may be good. The fancier wants to improve the bird. The fancier wants to increase confidence. The fancier wants to make the pigeon faster. But the important question is, does the pigeon really need more training? Or does the pigeon need more recovery? Because sometimes the problem is not a lack of training. Sometimes the problem is accumulated fatigue. And if we fail to read the condition of the bird correctly, we may think that the pigeon needs more work, when in reality, the pigeon needs rest. This is why timing is extremely important. A racing pigeon system that may be useful at the beginning of the season does not automatically mean that the same system is appropriate during the last lap. At the beginning of the season, there is still enough time to test a system. There is time to observe how the pigeons respond. There is time to evaluate their recovery. And if the system does not work, there is still time to make adjustments. But during the last lap, there is much less time for experimentation, and if a mistake is made, there may not be enough time for the pigeon to recover. This is why the main goal during the final stage of the season is not always to add more training. Sometimes, the main goal is simply maintain the condition, protect the recovery, protect the confidence, and avoid unnecessary stress. A racing pigeon is not a machine that can simply be pushed harder and harder until the final race. The body has limits. The recovery system has limits. Energy reserves have limits. And most importantly, the mental condition of the bird also has limits. A pigeon that is constantly pushed, even when it is already tired, does not automatically become stronger. Sometimes it can lose condition. It can lose motivation. Its recovery can become slower, and it may become more vulnerable to health problems. This is why we should not assume that the solution to every problem is more training. Sometimes the solution is proper rest. Sometimes the solution is proper feeding. Sometimes the solution is recovery. And sometimes the solution is simply maintaining a system that has already been working. This is where consistency becomes very important. When pigeons are familiar with a routine, they know what to expect. They have a regular feeding schedule. They have a regular training schedule. They have a regular rest period. They have a regular recovery routine. Consistency creates stability in the loft, and stability becomes even more important during the final lap of the racing season. This does not mean that we should never make adjustments. Of course, we must still observe our birds. If their condition changes, we must respond. If there is a health problem, it must be addressed. If weather conditions become difficult, we must use good judgment. But adjustment is different from panic. Intelligent decision-making is different from suddenly changing everything because we are afraid to lose. Sometimes, the biggest problem for a fancier is not the pigeons. Sometimes, the problem is pressure. You see another loft doing mid-tosses, you hear about another fancier using a new training system, you see another pigeon performing extremely well, and suddenly you begin to think, maybe I should do the same thing. And this is where problems can begin. Every loft has its own system, every pigeon has its own body, every bloodline has its own characteristics. Some pigeons recover quickly, some pigeons need more rest. Some pigeons respond well to heavy training. Other pigeons perform better when they receive proper recovery. This is why you should not simply copy another fancier's system. If a system works for one loft, it does not automatically mean that it will work for your loft. The right question is not, what is the other loft doing? The right question is, what are my pigeons telling me? How is their recovery? How is their appetite? How is their muscle tone? How is their feather condition? How is their energy? How is their motivation? And most importantly, are they really ready for additional training? An experienced fancier is not only someone who knows how to train pigeons. An experienced fancier also knows how to read the condition of the birds. He knows when to push, he knows when to rest, he knows when to make adjustments, and he knows when to stop adding more training. This is one of the most difficult lessons to learn in racing pigeon sport. Sometimes we feel that we always need to do something. We always want to add another training toss. We always want to try another technique. We always want to find a new system. But not every improvement comes from doing more. Sometimes improvement comes from doing less, but doing it at the right time. This is why a good principle for the last lap is build early. Build the condition at the right time. Maintain during the season. Protect the condition while the racing season continues. And when the final race is approaching, protect the condition. Do not destroy the form that took months to build. Fellow fanciers, remember this. The last lap is not the time to panic. It is not the time to suddenly experiment with a training system that has never been properly tested. And it is not the time to force your pigeons to copy the condition of another loft. If your racing pigeons are healthy, confident, recovering properly, and responding well to your system, your responsibility is to protect that condition. Do not overtrain them simply because you feel pressure. Do not push them simply because you are afraid, and do not give them unnecessary workload simply because you believe that more training is always better. In racing pigeon sport, proper training is not only about how much work the pigeon has done. It is also about how well the pigeon recovers after the work. And during the last lap, recovery can be more important than additional workload. So if mid-tossing has already been part of your system for a long time, and your pigeons are already prepared for it, that is a different situation. But if you are suddenly introducing mid-tossing during the final stage of the season because of panic or pressure, think carefully. Ask yourself, does the pigeon really need this? Is the body prepared for it? Is there enough recovery time? Will this improve the condition, or will it simply add more fatigue? Because the true goal of the last lap is not to do the most training. The true goal is to bring your pigeon to race day healthy, recovered, confident, motivated, and in the best condition that it can possibly achieve. The final lap is not only a test of the racing pigeon's strength, it is also a test of the fancier's discipline. Sometimes the champion decision is knowing when to add the right training, but sometimes the champion decision is knowing when enough is enough. So remember this golden rule. Do not train from panic. Do not make changes simply because you are afraid.
Do not copy another system simply because another fancier is using it. And, most importantly, do not destroy the condition of your pigeons through unnecessary changes. Build the form early. Maintain the condition. Protect the confidence. Respect the recovery. And, during the last lap, protect the condition. This is Ted from Ted's Loft TV. Thank you very much for listening.